I'd like to welcome you all to Goldline Press and Ricochet Edition's second event of our 2x2 reading series, Place, Body, Memory. As some of you may already know, Goldline and Ricochet are sibling presses at the University of Southern California with different aesthetic traditions. Over the years, the presses have transformed with new PhD students in creative writing and literature, fulfilling editor roles at both presses every year. This 2x2 reading series is our way of blending the press's evolving identities, celebrating the spectacular authors we've had the great fortune of publishing over the years, and building connections with other community organizations that share our literary values. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the Ricochet team. Ricochet editors, will you wave when I introduce you so we know who you are by face? Laura Roque, distribution editor. Thomas Rangelian, editorial editor. Matt Kessler, publicity editor. And I'm Tisha Marie Reiki Aguilera, managing editor.
One second, things are freezing up here.
Do you want me to introduce your staff then, Muriel?
Yes, I believe my Zoom just froze, so.
So that's it. Muriel Wang, editor-in-chief. And Marcus Clayton, our Goldline Presses fiction editor. Get those all right? Okay, good. Thank you all. I'd also like to acknowledge our co-host, the Long Beach Literary Arts Center, represented today by Lucy Rodriguez Hanley. She's a creative nonfiction writer, an award-winning filmmaker, and mother of two, a Dominicana via Washington Heights, now living in the LBC. She sits on the board of the Long Beach Literary Arts Center and co-leads the Long Beach chapter of Women Who Submit. Her films and writing samples can be found at lucyrodriguezhanley.com. Lucy? You have to unmute yourself, Lucy.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Goldline Press and Ricochet Editions for inviting us to collaborate. Here at the Long Beach Literary Arts Center, our mission is to elevate and connect the writers in our community. We host the Long Beach chapter of Women Who Submit, supporting women and non-binary writers in submitting their work for publication. Our Lit 240 reading series features up-and-coming and established authors, and our storytelling events give community members a chance to share their unique stories. Visit our website, lbliteraryarts.com, and follow us on social media for upcoming workshops and the next Lit 240. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Lucy. I have put the Long Beach Literary Arts website and social media handle in the chat room for those of you who wanted to access that. We're so glad to have Long Beach Literary Arts here with us today, our readers, our moderators, and those in the audience. Thank you all for being here. A few accessibility notes. 3 of the editorial staff will be live captioning the event. So you can refer to the closed captioning button on your Zoom screen for subtitles, and you can view full transcript to follow along. We also plan to upload this video to YouTube after the event with subtitles, so you can view the reading again at home and share with everyone after. After the reading, we will also have a Q&A and time for the audience to ask questions. Please use the Q&A feature on the Zoom webinar at that point to ask your questions. Today's reading and discussion explores the haunted terrain of place and memory. From the blanketing snow of Antarctica to the history of anti-Black violence that still reverberates across the fabric of the US, readers Douglas Manuel, Scarano, James Sweeney, and Li Yun Alvarado will share poetry and prose that peers deep into the way our sense of being, feeling, and knowing come from such a complicated geography. The reading will be followed by a Q&A hosted by Dana Johnson, author of In the Not Quite Dark, a short story collection in which downtown Los Angeles becomes as much a provocative character as well as the setting for assorted characters living and passing through the city. Dana Johnson is also the author of Break Any Woman Down, winner of the Flannery O'Connor Award for Short Fiction, and the novel Elsewhere, California. Born and raised in and around Los Angeles, she is a professor of English and my mentor advisor extraordinaire at the University of Southern California, where she directs the PhD in creative writing and literature. Thank you for being with us today, Dana, and welcome.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I'm excited to hear the amazing work that we're all going to hear today. And I'm going to start by introducing the first reader. Our first reader is Caitlin Scarano. She's a writer based in Anacortes, Washington, and she holds a PhD in English from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and an MFA in poetry from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Her hybrid chapbook, The Hatchet and the Hammer, was recently released by Ricochet Editions. Her debut collection of poems is Do Not Bring Him Water. Her work has appeared in Granta, Entropy, Carve, and the Colorado Review, and you can find her work at CaitlinScarano.com. Please welcome Caitlin.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you all for coming, and thank you Goldline and Ricochet for putting on this event. Before I read, I'm just going to read 3 poems, but before I start reading, I want to frame them. In 2018, I was a participant in the National Science Foundation's Antarctic Artist and Writers Program, so I spent a month in McMurdo, Antarctica. Since that time, I've been working on a manuscript of poems titled Dogs of a Never-Ending Winter, which draws on archival sources and historical research to investigate the use of dogs and other domestic animals in Antarctic history and expeditions, as well as the broader impacts of violence, of masculine exploration on non-human beings and landscape. This is the first time I've shared the poems from that manuscript in progress, so I appreciate you all listening. This is the first poem. And in the act of naming, we became less afraid, we created. Origins, points I chart on a map to meaning, wayfinding. Trace back, unbraid the tangled tongue, infinite threads, architecture of the heroic age of polar exploration. If I am disciplined, steady with the sextant reading of star sight and angle, count the number of knots that go over the stern, faithful in how I log each nightmare. If I follow a lodestone, if I name each landmark for king and country, I will find my way back to you. Arctic, Arctos, Greek for bear, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor seen from the North Star, Polaris, a triple star system, the only star that seems to stay fixed. All of this navigation in the name of adventure, knowledge, glory, man, immortality. Antarctic, Antarcticos, Antarctic, anti-Arctic, opposite of the North, unnorth, not North, originally called Terra Australis Incognita, as in unknown southern land. Each man had a name, each ship, expedition, and base had a name, each dog. This next poem is called The Men Could Not Imagine Life Without Fresh Milk, and it's inspired by the second Byrd Antarctic expedition, which occurred in 1933 to 1935. And I want to start with this quote from Elizabeth Lean, her article, Cows in Antarctica, How One Expedition Milked Them for All Their Worth. She says, domestic animals have long been used as colonial agents. The image of the explorer hero Byrd descended from one of the first families of Virginia, bringing cows to a new land and successfully farming them evoked this history. By then, Byrd knew a thing or two about sponsorship, about the herd mentality of the American imagination. The 3 Guernsey cows' names are lyrical, bucolic, tongue-in-cheek, Deerfoot Guernsey maid, foremost Southern girl, and Klondike gay Nera. Oh, my little lady, my curvy starlet, my sweet ship maiden, my wholesome babe, my bonnet, let me drink of you, milk running down my chin. Klondike the cow is pregnant when she boards, fertility as evidence of manifest destiny in the Antarctic. Byrd wants it this way, thinks the bull calf might stir the hearts of the public. He is right. The calf, Iceberg, is born on the SS Jacob Rupert, 250 miles north of the Antarctic Circle. Back home in America, they love it. They eat it up. What could go wrong? The heartland is a dust bowl. A quarter of the country can't find work. Prohibition, failure of a noble experiment finally comes to an end. Out with Hoover preaching patience and self-reliance, in with FDR and the New Deal. They have nothing to fear besides fear itself, right? Meanwhile, Hitler withdraws from the League of Nations, war brews in Europe. The cows spend a little over a year on the Ross ice shelf. The base bird calls Little America. He knows what he's doing, staking a claim, livestock as proof of settlement. Imperialism is comprised of gestures. Strange field, they might have remarked to one another, chewing year-old hay and half-open mouths, gazing onto the Antarctic expanse, unimpressed. The crew members snuck them apples. All that milk, so pure and rich, white milk, white men, all that bravery, 40 quarts a day at first, then barely a trickle. Klondike, weary with frostbite, is put out of her misery. The other cows are lucky. They make it back alive, make it back in time for the cover of the New York Times. And this last poem is called Cape Evans Dog. When I went to Antarctica, I went into one of the historic huts there, and there was still a skeleton of a dog that one of the expeditions had just left chained up there. So this poem is about that dog. It's called Cape Evans Dog, Scott's Hut, Cape Evans, November 2018. Inside the pony stalls of the hut, I find what I came for, a dog or what remains of it. The room reeks of century-old blubber, hay, and rot. The dog is still attached, but more a pile these days. What is gone, what is there, this is what I catalog. Eyes, gone. The sockets are deep and void, though not without expression. Tongue, gone. I imagine a human hand, a man's hand, the last one it might have nervously licked. But the teeth, most of the teeth remain, fitting closely together by design. The mouth, remnant of maw, slightly closed. The jaw, intact. Shoulder blade and ribs, intact. Vertebra disconnected halfway down what would have been her back. I want to take one of those ribs for myself. Possession is always a human undercurrent. The right foreleg bone seems jumbled, out of place, as if placed too high by the neck. Does any flesh remain? It's hard to say. Some patches of fur on cracked hide, gray as dryer lint. This might have been a black dog. But now the skull is so white, yellow white. She sleeps on bits of hay, a collar still around the bones of her neck, a chain still on the collar to keep her home, even after every man she knew is gone. Her pelvis, so small, delicate architecture, curve of socket seems to crawl away. There's so much we can never put back together. Thank you.
Caitlin, thank you so much. That was, some of those details are they're like rolling around in my head right now, and I feel like I want to ask you some stuff during the Q&A, but thank you for that. It's beautiful. Our next reader is Li Yun Alvarado, and she's the author of Words or Water. Her work has appeared in the Acentos Review, Vita Review, Raising Mothers, Astor X, and Wise Latinas, Writers on Higher Education, among others. She has served as the senior poetry editor for Quelle Journal and is an alumna of Vona Voices Writing Workshop in Rojo. Li Yun is a native New Yorker living in California who takes frequent trips to Salinas, Puerto Rico to visit La Familia. You can find her at liyunalvarado.com.
Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'm gonna frame and then jump in. For me, what has been evoked by the current manifestation of the Black Lives Matter movement has been really thinking about intergenerational traumas and intergenerational relationships. And so what I was called to share today was a little bit of my grandparents and my elders and ancestors. So that's what these poems kind of, the thread tying them all together. This poem was just published in LA Parent Magazine, and it's called To the White Parenting Expert. Your instruction. We must design our homes into havens, peaceful spaces for exploration, play, growth, mistakes, learning. My implementation, flawless. Diligent adherence to the tenets, good enough is good enough, no judgment, one right next step after the other. The floor to ceiling bookshelves in our living room organized into baby blue baskets dedicated to each prescribed zone. Pretend, sensory, focus, movement, peace. A monument to my penchant for and inclination towards teacher's pet status. My naivete, the presumption that your concern for designing presence and peace included peace for Black babies. Presuming you were ready, capable, willing to lead when called to help design for difficult peace, self-reflective peace, loud, demanding, fighting for justice, peace. I look at my baby blue baskets, feel my throat tighten in the clench of intergenerational traumas passed down from ancestors of all colors on my multiracial family branches. I take a long breath, hear the air leave my throat, a whisper, no justice, no peace. Then a scream, no justice, no peace. I re-begin the work of healing age-old wounds, growing into my roots as a good ancestor. The blue baskets remain. A reminder, reserve my faith and following for proven guides. And also, there are many ways to design a home for peace. Celebration of self and others, acknowledgement of ancestors and legacies, knowledge of histories and social movements, action, justice, peace. Another Abuela poem for Abuela Maria. Yes, of course she bakes. Combines huevos, mantequilla, azúcar, vainilla, canela, leche carnation, coco lopez, y pasas. Grinds against steel teeth loaves of stale pan. Bathes her budín en baño de María. And also wields her machete against overgrown pana and aguacate branches. Cleaves metalheads at the neck with her spotted, scaly hands. Espérame en el cielo, corazón. Singing long remembered boleros. Si es que te vas primero. Scalds, gardina pours, deplumes, guts, and stews the neighbor's pet who wandered uninvited into her pana's shade. This next one is in Words or Water, Intercessions. On his 80th birthday, we celebrate our good genes and his will to fight. The doctors call this remission. Some cancers kill slowly, give time for poisons and potions to work. Stage 4 lymphoma is not that kind of cancer. In his case, the doctor said 3 months. She denied the existence of cancer, observed the world of medicine and her children's broken English intercessions without a word. The properties of belief and prayer cannot be charted along the periodic table, but like gravity, their effects can be felt. She worked elements of the other plane. I do not know the details, only this: he lived, then kept living. 10 years cancer-free. He could not return the favor. When she died too fast for intervention, he sought an old forgiveness that our embraces could not grant. In the end, was that his secret? Papa, when we all thought we would lose you at 70, did both your women intercede on your behalf? This next one is in accolades. I heard a shout out to Women Who Submit earlier, so this is the Women Who Submit anthology. Hechizo para congelar. For Mama Merida, who taught us the power of spells. I co-wrote this poem actually with my cousin, Josmara. Ingredients: 1, names. 2, pencil. 3, paper bag. 4, freezer. Spell. Pencil names onto pieces of brown paper bag. Let's say Donald John Trump, Kirsten Michelle Nielsen, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, Sarah Elizabeth Huckabee Sanders, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. Fold. Fold again. Set intention, speak. Que no hagan más daño. Bury tiny pieces in freezer corner. Wait for papers to chill. Watch as each person freezes. Stopped. Cold as ice. Abolished. And just one more. This one's pretty new, and it's of our times. FaceTime goodbyes for Papi. We open Holy Week with a virtual rosario for Papi's soul. On FaceTime, Mami, Tío, Titi, and los vecinos in Puerto Rico. My brother in New York, me in LA. Recently, I read that nurses FaceTime the families of dying COVID-19 patients who are not allowed visitors in person at the end of life. The last week Papi was alive, before Christmas, before quarantine, Mami FaceTimed me to his bedside, where parranderos serenaded his almost lifeless body. 10, maybe more, crowded together, instruments and voices harmonized in goodbye. Through FaceTime, I sang, cried Papito towards his final transition. This week, I do not know if my love will have proper PPE. In the middle of long quarantine days, our 3-year-old avoids nap time by asking to FaceTime his papi, who can sometimes check in during lunch breaks from FaceTime telemedicine appointments. I married a man who yearns to run into the fire. I want a forever that lasts longer than it takes lungs to cloud up a follow-up CT. Last year, I did not even know the acronym PPE. On Palm Sunday, I chant over FaceTime, Dios te salve María, llena eres de gracia, el Señor es contigo. In my head, I beg Papi as if on FaceTime, por favor, papito, no te me lo lleves. Thank you.
Li Yun, thank you so much for that. I was thinking of one of your lines, knowledge of histories and social movements, action, justice, peace, but also celebration of self and others, acknowledgement of ancestors and legacies. Like, that's the key to life, I feel like. If we all would just do that, we would all be good. Thank you. Our third reader is Dennis James Sweeney, and he's the author of the chapbook Ghost Home, A Beginner's Guide to Being Haunted, as well as 3 other chapbooks of poetry and prose. His full-length book, In the Antarctic Circle, won the 2020 Autumn House Rising Writer Prize and is forthcoming from Autumn House Press in 2021. His writing has appeared in Crazy Horse, 5 Points, Ninth Letter, the New York Times, and the Southern Review, among others. A small press editor of Entropy and former Fulbright Fellow in Malta, he has an MFA from Oregon State University and a PhD from the University of Denver. He lives in Amherst, Massachusetts.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. This is amazing. I'm going to read from Ghost Home, A Beginner's Guide to Being Haunted, which is the chapbook that Ricochet published. And I'll just start from the beginning. I think it starts to explain itself. Oh, perhaps it doesn't. There are figures in the book. There are diagrams of ghosts. And I can send you those later if you would like to see them. So I will say something about figures. See figure 1. Because the Confederate soldier living inside my sister was a function of my sister growing up inside our house. The empath told her something horrible had taken place in the land where we grew up, and the soldier was just one casualty of it. According to him, we had lived among ghosts. We slept in rooms that were as thick with them as with air. When she was a child, one of the ghosts split off and got in her. It followed her all the way to Los Angeles, where the empath finally identified the ghost as the cause of her anxiety. He extracted the soldier from her. He said he saw black fog and bubbles emerge from her body, and when he had finished with the extraction, her anxiety was gone. She asked him about my stomach problems. Your brother probably has a ghost living inside him too, he said. At first I didn't believe it. Since the beginning, I've refused to swallow my sickness. When the first doctor looked at my flattening growth chart and said the word Crohn's, neither my parents nor I listened to him. When the second doctor confirmed it, explaining that my immune system was attacking my digestion for reasons no one could understand, I believed I could fight the apparition. Millions of people had Crohn's. They accepted the ghost. I had been presented with it, but I would not take it into me. It was true that the attic of our house, which served as a game room when my friends were over, gave me a nameless feeling when I entered it alone. Once during a sleepover, my friend and I heard a scratch in or through the walls and sprinted downstairs with our pillows. For the rest of the night, we couldn't sleep. We called the source of the noise Marilyn Manson because he was the only devil we knew of. Later, I saw The Ring and woke up over and over in the night. If I had to go to the bathroom, I walked slowly down the hall to convince myself and any entities that I did not want to run. Nothing happened. It's not that the ghosts became visible or that they observably terrorized. That was the exact ghostliness of them. Instead of haunting, they did the work that science claimed it could make sense of: an overactive sympathetic nervous system, the body's attack on its own intestines. Crohn's is often attributed to the immune system's lack of exposure to pathogens early in life. My immune system had never learned the difference between what is harmful and what is only an illusion of harm. Never mind the ghost that my father claimed. With hyperbole that approached complete seriousness, he saw it drift past the doorway of our TV room. Never mind the name of the first owner of the house, which was, including her middle initial, identical to my sister's. See figure 2. The ghost's exact ghostliness is its resistance to stable narration. It gets inside the body, and because it cannot be identified, it cannot come out, which left me a decade later still inhabited. After years of remission, my stomach problems had begun to come back. Maybe because I was waking to the profusion of forces that were not me. Those forces had woken too. The ghost was in the moodiness of my illness and its sudden unpredictability. It was in the fact that the closer attention I paid to myself, the more I tried to solve my stomach, the more my ghost would react. It didn't like to be looked at. It didn't like to be known. And this is skipping ahead a little bit. I'll just read a couple short paragraphs here. In the end, I cannot speak of what does not exist. To make a mountain out of invisible longing or invisible memory is only an escape from making a home. Home forms in lines and certainties, not in gaps. There are no ghosts unless we allow them. Then they turn around and live in us. Or with stubbornness and a little Midwestern looking the other way, we can refuse their influence. We can refuse to be inhabited. And so I don't blame anyone for the ghost that is in me. I do not even begrudge the home that hosted it. The walls had that unnameable quality only because I myself had not found certainty. I was young and accepted everything into me. Like my sister in Los Angeles, I looked for my ghost. Now I have given it this hollow, mouth-puckering name. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm like looking at the transcripts and revisiting all my favorite lines of what you guys are reading. And there are no ghosts unless we allow them is one of my favorite lines from what you just read. It's amazing. Thank you again. Our last reader, but certainly not least, is our own Douglas Manuel. Douglas was born in Anderson, Indiana. He received a BA in creative writing from Arizona State University and an MFA from Butler University, where he was the managing editor of Booth, a Journal. He is currently a Middleton and Dornsife Fellow at the University of Southern California, where he is pursuing a PhD in literature and creative writing. He has served as the poetry editor for Goldline Press, as well as one of the managing editors of Ricochet Editions. His poems are featured on Poetry Foundation's website and have appeared on or are forthcoming in Pleiades, Poetry Northwest, the Los Angeles Review, Superstition Review, Rhino, North American Review, the Chattahoochee Review, New Orleans Review, Crab Creek Review, and elsewhere. His first full-length collection of poems, Testify, Redhead Press 2017, won an IBPA Benjamin Franklin Award for Poetry. In 2020, he received the Dana Gioia Poetry Award. Please welcome Douglas Manuel.
Thanks so much, Dana. I appreciate it. I'm so happy to be here. I also want to take a moment to thank Goldline and Ricochet, and I want to say everybody's name in Chachao for making sure that this happens. Thank y'all, Jocelyn, Marcus, Matt, Sarah, Tisha, Meryl, Tom, and Laura. Seriously, thank you for making this happen. And of course, the Long Beach Literary Arts Center as well. I feel as though living in the LBC, I should be talking to y'all a lot more than I am. So I'm going to make sure to get all y'all contacts and stuff. So seriously, thank you. It's so good to be here. And just like Long Beach, there goes a siren real quick. I live downtown, so give me 1 second. We LBC living all the way. Okay, so I'm gonna just read 2 poems. Actually, before I get into it, I also want to thank my fellow readers. Reading with y'all is such a pleasure. Y'all all blessed the mic and dropped so many bars from Caitlin to Li Yun to Dennis. All you guys were so awesome, and I just am really thankful to share this space with you. Like, you know, such a beautiful day, and people are online caring about poetry is just really dope. So thank y'all so much. I'm gonna read only 2 poems, friends. One poem from Testify that's kind of become, if I can say that I have a go-to poem to read at this, you know, nascent level of my career, I think it's the one that I read the most. And then I'll read one poem from my forthcoming book. It was going to be 2021, but, you know, the Rona happened, so it might be a little bit later, but it's called Trouble Funk. And I'll give you guys a little bit more about that to kind of frame that one. But yeah, we'll start out with, I guess, this one from Testify. And I don't think I need any framing for this one. Again, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Much respect due to all y'all. Seriously, thank you for sharing space with me. This one's called Heading Down. We shouldn't raise mixed babies in the South. Kay says as I drive up the crest of another hill on our way into Kentucky, the South, where humidity leaves a sweat mustache, where a truck with a Confederate flag painted on its back windshield skitters off in front of us. In its bed, avoiding our eyes, a boy with blonde hair split down the middle like a Bible left open to the book of Psalms. His shirtless, sunlit skin drapes, a thin coat for his bones, his clavicle sharp. I want to know who's driving this raggedy truck. I want the boy to look at us. I want to spray paint a black fist over that flag. I want the truck to find its way into the ravine. I want to. Stepping on the gas, I pass the truck. Kay and I turn our heads. The boy smiles and waves. The man driving doesn't turn his head, keeps his eyes on the road. Kay turns red as she draws her fingers into fists. And with nothing left to do, I stare at the whites of her eyes. So this next one, I think the only thing you guys, I guess I'll tell you about Trouble Funk a little bit. So this project, I'm kind of imagining the space in the America that my parents fell in love with in the late 70s and early 80s. And my dad was a DJ, and so thought it'd be kind of cool to name each one of the poems a song that he liked to spin at that time. And it's been really good. if you know anything about me, my father did a 16-year prison bid, so he wasn't around, and my mother died when I was 8. So it's kind of been like kind of a project of kind of figuring out like where I came from, digging into things that I can't touch with my mother leaving so early. And so it's also been a good way to connect to my father because we haven't always been as close. So we've been having a lot of really fruitful and meaningful conversations that we probably wouldn't have, and have been trying to get to know each other better. So it's been really helpful. And yeah, and other than that, I think you'll know who the president that I'm referring to is. It's Reagan. But I think the other thing you need to know for this is Michael Donald is referenced. And Michael Donald was lynched March 21st, 1981 in Mobile, Alabama. And it was one of the last recorded lynchings by the Ku Klux Klan in the United States of America, like on record. So yeah, so I think that's it. And this will be my last one. And again, thank you so much for sharing this space with me. Y'all can't wait to chat with y'all about place and memory after this. Much respect, dear friends. All right. So this, the title of this is Are You Single? That's a song that really, really slaps by Ara, if you want to ever listen to it. Here we go. Thanks again, y'all. Are You Single? Released and returned, the hostages invaded each and every news segment. The new president, a former actor, Damon told her, Denise had never heard of the killers or Law and Order, spoke with a sparkle that mirrored the glinting glow ricocheting off Damon's juicy, soaking wet jerry curl. Denise's matched his and her jerry curls. Tonight would be theirs, no dance hall, no women surrounding the turntables, no waiting on him to finish working the room, no prying eyes calling to question all of her fashion choices. Tonight would be a fancy dinner, somewhere black folks don't normally go, somewhere she ain't never been before. She outlines her lips, fills them, smacks them. She's almost tempted to kiss the gas, almost tempted to love herself more. Giving her hair one more pat, she's ready. Strolls out and looks for her ankle hose, looking for her flats. In front of the TV, she can only see his back. It's slightly a tremble. When she gets close enough, she can see the tears. What's wrong, she asks. They just left him swinging there. Swinging right there. Just left him, he says. Who, she asks, thinking it was his brother, his uncle, or one of his hard-headed cousins. Then the anchor said his name, plain and matter-of-fact-like, just like he would warn of rain or overcast day. Michael Donald, son of Bula May and David Donald, lynched. Thank you very much, guys.
Doug, thank you. Trying to connect to things we can't touch. That's a line of yours that I'm going to be thinking about. I feel like that's what we're doing here today on a Sunday afternoon. It's our version of sort of literary church, trying to connect to certain things. So I have tons of questions. There's some good questions here in front of me. And the very first question got me thinking about sort of, somehow I've become like a writer about Los Angeles, even though that's not what I intended to be. And when I left home for the first time and moved to Indiana to go to Indiana University to get my MFA, almost 30 years ago, that was the first time that I realized that Los Angeles as a place was very important to me, how I viewed the world, the kind of person I became. And so I'm asking this question of you guys. What places are particularly significant in your writing, and why are you drawn to these particular places? And any of you can jump in and start the discussion about that.
I can jump right in. Salinas, Puerto Rico is like so central. Both of my parents were born there and raised there, and were friends from my grandmothers worked in the same paper mate factory. So my parents grew up together, and my parents gave us, my brother and me, the eternal gift of sending us to Salinas every summer to live with our grandparents. And so it's just my other home. So I grew up in New York City, and I'm an urban kid, you know, I grew up in New York, but I spent every summer in Puerto Rico. And so these lush green mountains, the ocean, all of those places call to me so deeply because it's also my other home. And trying to untangle, right, my generations, my family's there. And that route between the New York, Puerto Rico route, which is such an important kind of diasporic node. So it's really interesting for me too, to be now in Long Beach. I have a poem about living in walking distance from the ocean and how that made it so familiar, even though it's so out of, you know, I never imagined, oh, I'll move to California. Like I fell in love, things happened. But that the ocean connects me back to Puerto Rico in that way. And the urbanity of Long Beach feels like an outer borough. I'm like, oh, I'm an outer borough kid. This is like very, people walk here, I can do it, you know? And so those 3 points now are this weird triangle in my writing. The New York, Puerto Rico, and now this weird California piece, which I'm still in the nascent stages of exploring.
I guess I can jump in because I feel like I have a triangle too, so I totally feel you on that, Li Yun. Like, for me, of course, Indiana, being a Midwest kid, I think one time somebody said that the state of Indiana is even a character in my first book, and I thought that was a really good reading of thinking about that. A lot of my work deals with what happened when the factories left and crack cocaine came in, as far as in my community. And then Arizona is kind of where I guess I decided I could try this writing thing and stick with it. But I think like desert scenery informs a lot of my kind of deep image inventory of where I go. I think like the fresh waterways of Indiana, the desert scenery of Arizona, and then now, like you were talking about, being in downtown Long Beach and being like blocks away from the beach. Like I live in existence that just feels so foreign to everything that I grew up in. It's very odd to me. Vonnegut, there's a cool essay where Vonnegut talks about the difference between freshwater people and saltwater people. And it's weird being around all y'all saltwaters. Y'all got a different flow than us. But I'm learning it. And every now and again, I still kind of feel slow, like Indiana slow. But yeah, I'm getting faster. It's been 7 years. But yeah, no, I think that ends up being the triangle of my aesthetic. And it's weird that I've been here this long now that almost it feels as though that like I'm a Southern Cal person. And like when you're from Indiana, like it's like homies back home would never say that. Doug, the key Hollywood. Like I would have never thought that, yo. So I totally feel you about the triangle though. Totally.
I can answer that question. I actually grew up in Southern Virginia, in a really rural area. We played a lot in the woods as children, my sisters and I feel like that landscape sort of pops up in my poetic mythology often. You know, I think like where we grew up is often like the landscape of the imagination, or sort of shapes that, you know. And I've had the chance to live in Alaska. I've had the chance to go to Antarctica, and I'm interested in these polar regions because of their relationship to the imagination, right? Like these are places where not a lot of people live or go. So it's sort of interesting how the ideas we have about a place can be different than what that place physically is. And that gets very entangled. And I think it shapes like how we relate to place, how we relate to nature.
I was thinking about shapes, given the triangle that occurred, and I was realizing that maybe my relationship to home, which is the place that I'm always drawn to. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, also a Midwesterner. Like I realized that my shape is more like a donut with a really small hole in the middle of it. Like everything outside of my home is a place that I have written about and thought about, et cetera. But it's taken me a long time to come back to this like little gap that's actually the place where I grew up. And I think it's a function of that being the way we approached ourselves in my house and in my community. I think people weren't talking about our place as a place. They were just talking about it as like normal. And yeah, I realized when I was reading this weird last thing to you, talking about a little Midwestern looking the other way, like we kind of ignore our ghosts. I don't know if that's applicable to the whole Midwest, but the people that I grew up around, we were kind of ignoring our ghosts. So there's been this kind of, maybe it's less of a donut, more of a funnel that I keep trying to get out, and it's just bringing me back, you know?
Do you guys feel as though it's easier to write about place once you're away from it, or is it better to sort of be immersed in the place? For me, I wrote so much better about LA once I was gone and sort of missing it, but I don't think that's necessarily the case for all writers. So I'm just wondering your thoughts about that.
I was looking at some old work recently, and there were some things that I had written during a summer when I was in Puerto Rico as an adult that I had planned to just spend the summer there. And I was like, oh, this is good. I got to come back to this. But usually what my writing about Puerto Rico is very much a longing. So it is when I'm not there. And so it exists in my imagination as much as like being immersed. So it doesn't feel either or to me. It really depends. But there was something so wonderful about spending an extended period of time, because I hadn't spent like a month in Puerto Rico since I had been a child. Like, you know, I was an adult, so I had to like work and stuff. But this was when I was in grad school, and I said, I'm not going to work this summer. I'm going to go hang out with my grandmother. And yeah, I wrote a lot there because I wanted to capture as much as I could, like very cognizantly and very consciously writing place.
Thinking about the imaginative landscapes that Caitlin was talking about with regard to Antarctica, I've also spent some time writing and thinking about Antarctica. And I think similarly for me, I was drawn to the kind of imaginative quality of it, that it exists, but it doesn't for a lot of people who haven't been there. And I was thinking about how maybe it's not so much whether I'm away or at home, but rather like whether I'm moving away from or moving toward it. I feel like, you know, my writing always comes out of either a desire to sort of flee or a desire to kind of go back, maybe regardless of where I geographically am.
No, I think for me, it's mostly when I'm away. I feel like when I was in Arizona, I was writing like almost all Indiana poems. And then when I was in Indiana, I was writing all Arizona poems. And it's weird, like California hasn't, except for Joshua Tree and probably Carmel, like California, like that image inventory really hasn't come up into my poems. So I'm very interested like how it's going to serve me in the future. But yeah, I don't find myself going there. That's why I really dig what Caitlin was saying about kind of where you grew up ends up kind of being, you know, I guess like that kind of goes to like, you know, those old school articles by like Hugo and stuff, like triggering town, like that's kind of a triggering town for my poems and stuff. But yeah, but I do kind of feel Li Yun as well, though, that like I know that I have, because like being in California, I've been reaching, especially for Joshua Tree, but I think it's because it echoes so hard with like the Arizona landscape. So like, you know, we put my old dog's remains there. And so that place like has that kind of cleansing feeling as well. And I feel like the desert, because it's so harsh, I really identified with it, and I didn't realize how green Indiana was until I went back, you know what I mean? And I was like, what the hell? Like, if you just look at the ground, something grows here. Like, it was crazy. So I think that's another thing that I've been thinking about like how fertile it is in Indiana and how wet it is, and like how that informed my upbringing versus like how arid and harsh. Like I remember like when all my journal entries in Arizona always talk about like the land like fighting me back. Like it feels like the land is like squaring up with you in AZ, like what's good, and like what that did for my kind of mentality versus like these way more friendly terrains of well, at least right now, California can, when it's burning up or really hot or when the earthquakes is set trip and be harsh. But like, I wonder about how that's all going to work in my head.
The desert strikes me as a place that, it's a place that I really love to write about and visit. But I always hear from people, well, it's kind of the same. It's like the terrain's the same, the color's the same. There's some sameness about the desert, but I disagree with that entirely. That I feel like there's a lot of nuance there in the desert, right? So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, you got to pay attention. The changes are so subtle. Like, you know, like, and it's so seasonal. Like, I think it's more, it takes like kind of a divine act of attention, the kind of attention seeking that like we want with poetry to like almost makes it, you know, divine and devotional to like notice the changes. But yeah, like all it takes is like a spit of rain and like suddenly you see all these desert flowers out of nowhere. It's really nice.
Caitlin, when you were reading, I was thinking about just how Antarctica just looms so large in my imagination. It's almost like Mars or something. Like it's just so incredible as an idea, and I hope to get there someday. But all I have is sort of the literature to take me there, or photographs or what have you. So I'm just wondering, because it's such a, it leaves its mark, even with folks who've not been there, do you really need to have to be there in order to write it, right? I was thinking about that for your work.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I went down there sort of with like a half-baked idea of what I was doing, and the day before I flew out, I went to the Natural History Museum in Christchurch, New Zealand, and they had an exhibit there on the dogs in the history of the expeditions, like how dogs were used in Antarctic exploration. And it was there were a lot of photos and like journal entries and even like archival footage. So it's like I actually found my topic before I even went there. It was like what's the point? I mean, it's like I don't think you need to, like, it's hard to get there, right? Like it's like there's this accessibility issue, and so that doesn't mean that like you can't appreciate a place or learn about a place or imagine it or try to understand it. Like you don't have to go to a place to do those things, you know. And I think we can have different relationships with the places we have been, we've lived in, we've visited, we've dreamed of, right? And I know like Dennis has not been there, but he's also writing about it. So it's like I think that's totally valid.
I have another question about ghosts. So literal or metaphorical ghosts appear in many of your books, and I'm wondering how you see ghosts functioning in your work. And what do ghosts allow you to convey about place, body, and memory? My most recent collection, I was obsessed with ghosts because I live in a building that was built in 1905. And I know that many people have come and gone. Some literally have died in the building. And so I feel history very much in this building. So I'm just wondering how that is working with you all in your work. And then I have a sub question in the Q&A. Tell us about your most haunted objects. So that's like a two-parter. But yeah, how's ghosts and memory and all of that working for you? Anybody? Dennis, I was going to come to you, Dennis, because you read. Yeah.
Maybe I ought to. I mean, so for me, the challenge of this book was, I was trying to write about having Crohn's disease, which is this very embodied experience that, you know, I was going through while writing the book. Like, oh, my stomach hurts, I have to go to the bathroom. I can't continue writing this sentence, for example. Like the sort of conceptual bodilessness that we're maybe supposed to inhabit, or that we're sometimes assumed to inhabit upon like creating language, which actually Caitlin refers to in her chapbook as well. I feel like it evoked that for me when I read it. Like, there's that, and then there's the body. And I was trying to get to the sort of reconcile those, or find out what that space was between conceptual language, et cetera, and the act of living. And I couldn't figure out quite how to do it. And then the idea of this ghost came up when I was thinking about my sister's experience with this empath. And I realized that ghosts for me were kind of like the perfect metaphor or real actual thing to describe this gap, because they're distinct. They're a thing that's separate from the world around them, theoretically, but you can't really see their edges in sort of some mythologies. You sort of know they're there, but you don't really know that they're there. There's kind of like a space of knowing and non-knowing at the same time. And there's not too many objects, I feel, that can contain that kind of simultaneous like presence and absence. So yeah, and just the haunted object thing. I mean, I actually have this box of these chapbooks here that were supposed to be, the world was still going to be the way it was in February and before, and I was going to go into it and do readings and stuff like this, and instead they've been sort of in my house, like haunting me in a weird way. So in terms of a haunted object, you can have this thing when it mentions something enough and you're forced to consider it enough. In my case, calling these ghosts into existence is actually not maybe good. It's good to talk. It's helpful for me to talk about them, but yeah, I'm not sure I want to have them in my house. Right. Especially given all that they contain, in terms of their aspirations and then the actuality.
Doug or Caitlin or Li Yun?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in. I mean, I think, I often think of that Yusef Kuminyaka line, yeah, I know something about talking to ghosts. Yeah, with my mom dying so young, I feel like I've been searching. I often write about that I'm searching for her voice, that most of my life I've been searching for her voice. Because I know that somewhere I remember it, but I can't really. So yeah. And I think another thing with that is lately, because my research is on gene tumor, and he's born the exact year of my great grandfather, 1896. And so I've been thinking about like what he would think of me, and what he would like. A rapper that I dig has that line of what would my great granddad think of me, and like, yeah, I've been really thinking what Walter Coles would think of me, and his picture is in the front room of my auntie house, my auntie who raised me in Indiana. And like for so long, I mean, I think a haunted object of my childhood was definitely him and my great grandma's picture, Martha Coles, and like just the way folks just mean mugged in pictures back then, like it always had me shook when I was a kid. But I think as far as my most haunted object now is I've always kept my mom's death Bible. The Catholic Church has a weird thing, or at least the one in Anderson, St. Mary's Church, where they give you a Bible when somebody dies, like to go with them. And that's always been this weirdest thing to me. Like they're like, here's this gift, right? I guess. And yeah, so my mom's death Bible is something that I think I always feel the power if I even like whenever we move, because I don't open a Bible very often, to be quite frank, because that much Catholic school make you not open them very much in adulthood. But yeah, no, every time we move, and I can see where it's at on the bookshelves right now, and like I end up touching that Bible, I'm always like, oh shit, and I can feel the power of it. But yeah, I think ghosts and ancestors all the time I feel like talking to me almost every time I write. I think the project that I'm doing now, Treble Funk, would be impossible if the ancestors didn't come talk to me.
Did you say your great-great-grandfather?
I think it's two. I'm kind of dumb at those. Okay, so it would be, yeah, I'm unmuted. I was like, did I push mute again? So 1896. So Walter Coles, my grandma's father is born in 1896. So which one does that do? Is that two greats or one? I think that's two, right? One, right?
Great. Yeah, I think so.
One.
Yes.
One. Yeah. One. Hey, you making that face too. See, it's hard.
No, the only reason I asked because You know, and I was just thinking in terms of African American history. So I didn't even know my own grandfather. He was dead long before I was born. So I thought I heard you say great, great. So then I was getting really just sort of like envious, thinking in terms of memory, all the people that I don't know, will never know, they're completely erased. And there was a kind of haunting there of like the folks that you never know or never get to meet. So I was just really impressed with a great, great, or I'll even take a great, because I never even knew just grandfather, right? So I was just thinking about that absence in terms of haunting and memory.
Yeah. No, and that's why I feel like I wanted to say their names, and I've been saying them a lot, because it's so quick how people get erased. Like, I guess that's only one, mama, then grandma, then him. So that's 3 generations, and a lot of people don't know who that is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like my grandma died like the year before my mom, and so that was like a real rough patch of like, you know, deaths over and over again for me growing up. Like my grandma died when I was 7, my mom when I was 8. But so yeah, no, it's and I barely, and I didn't know my grandpa. But yeah, it's just strange to me, like Walter Cole's, like them making their part of the Black migration from Arkansas to Indiana, like means so much for our family's like history. And then, you know, not many of us know like who Walter and Martha are. And like, they're the people who, you know, kind of started the middle class of our family by, you know, being like he worked in a trash yard. So yeah, I think it's just important to remember those names and not to forget them. And then goodness gracious, American 1896, my God, my God. That's all I can think.
Li June or Caitlin?
Yeah,
Li June.
So the conversation you all just had just brought up a lot for me. So I think it's a good transition. My papi passed away in December. And we're talking about greats. So bisabuelo, bis is how we do the great. Bisabuelo was Don Cornelio el Primero, and he was married to Doña Irene, Abuelita Irene. I had the wonderful pleasure of knowing Abuelita Irene till I was in my 20s, early 20s. She passed away at 98. Wow. And one of my fondest memories of Abuelita Irene is at New Year's, before midnight or shortly after midnight, she would recite this like 5 to 10 minute poem from memory that she would recite from her childhood. Not something she had written necessarily, but it was Pobre Maria. And it was this whole long thing, well into her, you know, 80s at that point when I heard her do this. And I didn't know about this, but one year I was in Puerto Rico for New Year's and I was like, what is happening?
Wow.
From memory. So my poetic ancestry, I tie it right to my bisabuela, Irene. Don Cornelio el Primero, I did not have the pleasure of meeting, but he was this tall, skinny Black man who owned a cafeteria and gas station and always had a pistol in his hip. And my father would tell me that he would wake up all his cousins early in the morning to go cut cane in the cane fields in Puerto Rico. And then once they had done their work, they could go run around in the ocean and be, you know, unruly teenagers. But my father would tell that story as like so fun, like this is what we did. You know, he was like, he worked us hard, but we had a ball kind of story. So there's Don Cornelio, and then Cornelio Segundo, which is my grandpa, who just turned 89. Who we've had for 20 extra years. He's of my Cancer. And then there was Cornelio el Tercero, which is Papi. And Papi is Cornelio June, because he hated the name Cornelio. So everyone called him June. And so those are the stories. And Mama Merida is the one who interceded on Papa Connie's behalf, because she would, you know, she would tell us to put pennies in the corner, and she had all these spells. She had all these things that she did to bind him and keep him home and not running around. And my cousin Josmara, who helped me write that binding poem, to bind those politicians who need to stop doing so much harm is the keeper of those stories with Mama Merida. She's the oldest cousin, so she and Mama Merida were very close, and she knows all of those things that I know through my cousin. I don't know the magic in my family firsthand. It was passed on to Josmara, and I am the storyteller who works with the cousin. But Papi is Cornelio Jung, and before he passed, we let him open the envelope to find out the sex of my second child, because we had waited for the first, and we were planning to wait, but he became sick, and so we let him find out. And when we found out we were having a son, we said, well, is this gonna be Cornelio el Cuarto? Or, and he's like, I hate that name. Don't do that to the kid. And so the Jung has been passed as a middle name. And so the names, the naming, the histories, and the way names connect.
And the poetry.
And the poetry. And I'm reading My Grandmother's Hands, which talks about the racialized intergenerational trauma, and thinking about what does it mean to be the great-granddaughter of a Black man who owned in Puerto Rico. And what does that mean, and what does that look like? Because I don't really know in Salinas what that looked like at that time. And my grandfather is getting older, and my father is gone, and those stories, and I'm like, oh God, they're going. I have to.
The stories are everything.
I have to catch them, and so that's what haunts me. I think, very cheesily, but related, I think about that line in Hamilton, writing as if you're gonna die. Like, I'm not as if I'm gonna die, as if they're dying. I need to catch
Right.
before it's ether. And then you catch it in different ways, right? Because it's still there. So anyway, thank you,
That's
Douglas.
gorgeous. Thank you. Yeah.
That's what you brought up,
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Seriously, Lee, June. Thank you.
Caitlin, what about you? Ghosts of any kind?
Yeah, I was thinking about ghosts. I don't know that I believe in ghosts as an external force, but I was thinking about ghosts as like valid projections of the self, like ghosts as something to do with your relationship to something you've lost, or maybe like a life you didn't live, or someone else's life that you didn't know or understand, right? Like this relates to this conversation we're having. I often think about like women in my family, thinking like multi-generationally, when I'm writing, and I can sort of feel a presence, and it feels like an ongoing conversation with these women before me, these women who will come after me. So I'm not sure if that's it's sort of a half-formed response.
No, but you all are thinking about kind of what propels me into my own writing is always just there's always this weird thing of like excavating at the same time as documenting, right? Like you're trying to find some stuff in the past, but you're also trying to write the now so that people don't erase the now as they did the past. Like there's all these things happening at the same time when we're writing. And so, yeah, Caitlin, like, I think what you're saying about that is apt, absolutely. And that's what I think, at least that's what I try to do as well as a writer. I wanted to ask, this is kind of it's one of the last questions on the list of questions that I have, or it is actually the last, but I wondered about the literary models or film, visual arts, or music that shape your work. I find that photography and of course music is very helpful to me, but you never know what's going to be the lightning rod that sort of ushers you into the next thing that you're thinking about and living with and writing for quite a while. So I'm going to pose that question to you all. Like, what is it in terms of sort of the art world or literature or music that speaks to you and informs your writing. And maybe, you know, particularly in terms of memory and body and place. Doug, you were talking about music earlier and your father being a DJ. So I would assume that music plays a large part in your writing.
Yeah, no, music always was just playing in the house, like so many Black households. Like we had music on all day radio. Even my auntie, same way. My auntie always tells me she remembers my daddy DJ days. Olive Anderson. When you're from a town of 58,000 people, people definitely and is highly segregated as Anderson is. Like all the Black folks in Anderson know all the Black folks. I go to Anderson in 3 seconds. Dougie, Dougie. That's how I know I'm back home, because everybody can call out. But I always say when I'm asked about this, like when it comes to testify, like of course like funk music and soul and, you know, jazz funk, like informed trouble funk and what's happening, because that's what my dad was spinning at the time. My dad spun from 78 to 82. He always says that he had real skills that all these DJs now just want to scratch. My dad like stopped DJing about when people start scratching, and that's because his drug usage got so rough then. So he always says he could really DJ because he knows how to just see a crowd and know what song they need to hear. That's what my father did. That he could look at you and know what song you need to hear. He literally does that with people. It's kind of cool. But as far as Testify, it's so hip hop informed so much of it. You know, of one of the first generations that had hip hop my whole life. My brother was rapping every 3 seconds, was always beatboxing, was always doing beats on his chest. Like my brother can do Computer Love, the beat to Computer Love, rubbing his hands together and pounding his chest for you like right now on command. I was always envious because I could never do that, and I still can't. I know what it looks like though. So yeah, no, but I've said before that, you know, some albums like from, you know, that golden era of hip hop from like, you know, 88 to like 94, like that those are more influential in my poetics than many of, you know, the great white masters, in which like is the canon in which we stepped into. And those were some of the first voices that I thought that I can play with language like that by their rhymes, you know what I mean? I remember like, you know, hearing like Triumph and being like, you know, in like 3rd or 4th grade, but my brother would say the like Inspector Deck's verse over and over again. I bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses can define how I'll be dropping these mockeries. And I mean, like that just like stays with me like forever, you know? And I think that those rhythms and like that attention to sound inform my poetics way more than anything that I've encountered since. And I think that what's really cool about Trouble Funk is being able to like now take the step back to like get to the music, like hip hop sampled the music that my daddy was playing. And so now getting to that. And so again, I guess to kind of connect this to the ancestors and ghost talk is I feel like, you know, so many ghosts hunt hip hop. So much talking to the ancestors, talking back to funk, talking back to R&B, talking back to blues, talking back to jazz, talking back to Negro spirituals, talking back to drum circles. So I feel like that all the music, all of Black music is something that makes a family out of our personhood and our experience here in the United States. And I feel like when I step to the page that all that music and all those rhythms are talking to me. And I feel really blessed to be in that lineage, you know. Toomer born in 1894, my Walter Cole's born in 1896. And it's just like, yo, I want to tap into all that and hear all that rhythm.
Fantastic. Yeah. Other folks. Dennis or anyone.
Happy to, yeah. I've been reading. I have a horrible memory, so everything, all my influences are like the things I've experienced in the last year. But I've been reading a lot of illness memoirs, trying to catch up on where I'm at in this. And so I've been kind of like creating this criteria for what's a good illness memoir. Like, what does that mean to me? And there's a lot of, so the ones that I find to be the most compelling are the ones that don't necessarily see illness as a state of exception. The ones that, so Susan Sontag has this book, Illness as Metaphor, and she's, there's some good things about it, but she also argues that kind of has this medicalized definition of illness, like this thing that comes in out of nowhere, it's not part of you, and it affects you and it changes you, and then maybe it's gone or maybe you die. or maybe you live with it for the rest of your life. For me, like the illness memoirs that are really working for me, some examples: Amy Berkowitz's Tender Points, Krista Franklin's Under the Knife, Emily Russo's Wave Archive, The Undying, Leah Lakshmi Peepsna Samara Sinha's Care Work was amazing. These are books that don't see illness or disability as a state of exception. They see it as like, in some respect, represent it as a natural. No, natural is not the word to use. As you know, a condition that reflects the body in general. Like we're all contingent. We all have aspects, and illness is an aspect rather than a state of exception or a state to necessarily even be avoided. It's particularly sticky when you get to chronic illness because in my case, it's hard to own a thing that causes me, physical suffering. But at the end of the day, it's important to, because suffering is inevitable, and this is the way that I do it, in addition to others. So I think books that recognize that and see that and actually integrate illness with the person is, it's a tricky step to take, and one that you have to be sort of careful about. But so those are the things that I've kind of been like thinking of and tracking and trying to put myself into a lineage of recently.
Thank you. Thanks for those titles too. Thank you.
Yeah. Three things came to mind, and one jumps off nicely, Dennis, from what you were talking about is medicine. My husband's a family physician, so I have liked playing with medicine. So I've written, like I'll grab one of his medical journals and like take an article and grab words from there, because it's just a completely different, that's not my world at all, but it has such interesting language. So playing as an outsider, but also we have pillow talk, right? So there's like that insider view of medicine that is interesting to me. And I've been thinking a lot about Anzaldúa and her later work in terms of spiritual activism, and thinking, so that connection between the body and the spirit and the interplay between this otherworldliness and how that plays into how we are in the world and how we do our activism. And then music, I sang that little bolero. So I feel like music can be such a key way to catch time and capture people and the music, who they are. So the bolero is my grandparents, and the way they would dress in the middle of Puerto Rico, hot as full suited, right? Those men, there were those galanes. And that bolero evokes all of that. And with my parents, it would be salsa clásica. And that would be how Douglas, your project is so amazing to me, because I just think about my parents' story through music would be like the salsa album, and it would be a story. So I love it. I love your project, and it's definitely inspiring a little nod to the work you're doing, because it's evoking so many ideas.
I always like to answer this question with like, who are the living writers that I'm reading currently? Because I feel like we don't always have that conversation, and so like I really enjoyed some reading by women lately, as my man collected Schizophrenias, which if you haven't read that yet, Dennis, I would recommend that one. Melissa Bebos, Abandon Me, T. Kier Madden's Long Live the Tribe of Fatherless Girls, In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. These books are just like really, I don't know how it's influencing my work, but just if something like gets me excited again about reading, that energizes me to write, I think.
Patricia Smith's Blood Dazzler does that to me every time. I mean, I'm like, if my poems aren't moving you the way this book, then like that's the aspiration. It's like, let me get to that level of, whoa. It's a book like on Hurricane Katrina, and it's just brilliant. It's my go-to.
This is amazing. Like, and I'm so glad to have all of these books, and like you guys' conversation is blowing my mind. And I now want to invite other folks to join the conversation with whatever questions they may have. If anybody out there in the chat could pose some questions. I'm looking to see if there's anything so far.
I might type some of the recommendations that I mentioned in the chat box as well.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just reading. I'm not seeing anything so far. And if anybody, I know Marcus is in the chat, and Tisha, I think. But if anybody else has any questions, please send them. And I'm just going to give that a minute to happen to see if anything comes to fruition. But if not,
Before we go, I just want to thank everyone. Thank you all for sharing the space as well. I didn't say when I was setting up to read, but Dennis, Douglas, Caitlin, and Dana, it's been such a pleasure. And to all the organizers, thank you so much. So shout out to everyone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all too. This was like the best way to spend a Sunday afternoon. Like, thank you very much. And I guess like Muriel was going to close us out if we were done with the conversation here. And again, thank you all very much.
I think we have one question from Oliver, which is, can a city as a whole be haunted? So I wonder if we can maybe close out with one last question.
I'd like to hear Dana's answer.
I say yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Los Angeles is my hometown, born and raised, but I feel like I'm always looking over my shoulder for like, what happened there? What happened 2 decades ago? Why am I feeling this on my back? Why are people treating people in a particular way? It's because we are haunted always by the behaviors, the people, the situations of the past. At least that's how I feel. That's how I feel the city working on me, definitely. So what are your thoughts? What are other folks' thoughts?
Dana, if I may, Dana knows this because she's read some of my manuscript. I think a city can also haunt you even when long after you leave it. I'm working on a manuscript called Ghosts of Lake Whitney, and it's loosely based on my grandmother's childhood in Lake Whitney, or in Whitney, Texas, and how the ghosts of that childhood have continued to plague her in her adult life. So I think that the city can be haunted, but you can also take that hauntedness with you from whatever place you leave.
Yeah, I totally agree. As I said, my parents are from Tennessee, and every summer until I was around 19 or 20, we went to Tennessee, and I feel as though, even though I'm not born there or raised there, that it's with me, that sort of Southern life, that Southern world, those Southern people, that Southern language. So I feel like I'm quite haunted by the South as well. As a Los Angelino, it seems weird to say that, but it's 100% true, yeah.
And in Anderson, I feel the remains of the Adena people actually just got a new draft for Trouble Funk that got picked up recently. And it talks about being at Mountain State Park, and those Native and Indigenous people, they have these big mounds that and that's the state park in Anderson, Indiana, at the outskirts. And of course, like, Black folks didn't go there that much. So my dad said he would go there all the time, but you couldn't let night catch you and be out on the outskirts of town at Mount State Park. Even in the 80s, they were thinking about that. But I just think about, like, this is where all the cross country teams and high school teams like run and practice and everything, and like just running over dead people. Like, this is like honored ground for the indigenous people there. And so the Dina people, I feel like, hunt everything about Anderson. Anderson is named Chief Anderson, was the gentleman who sold the town for money for his tribe. And so, yeah, that's what my hometown is named after. So I believe, just that whole colonization there, like, just makes us be dealing with ghosts, like, from the get-go. So I definitely think a city can be haunted. Every time that I'm walking in Anderson, I know that I'm walking on the, the bones of indigenous people because of all the mounds. Almost every hill in Anderson, I think, can be attributed to one of the Dina people mounds. And it's really something that I think about a lot.
Yeah, I might just say that I think what you verbalize and what you speak about and what you talk about has a lot to do with what is haunting versus what comes out in the open and isn't a ghost anymore. So that's what was haunting, us in Cincinnati. Like, it's a very segregated city. I was living in a mostly white community. Like, just our behavior patterns, the way we talked about things without talking about them. That's what created a lot of the haunting. So speaking, I think, makes a big difference and can at least change what that haunting looks like and how it affects people.
There's something really, what you said, talking around things and not sort of, again, the power is in the naming of the thing, of saying the thing. That's the power. And so when people are sort of like doing their like level best not to look and not to see, not to hear, that is like, that's beyond ghosts. That's definitely, that's almost like a nightmare in a way. Is like, I see it as that,
Totally, yeah.
All right, Muriel, there you are.
Yes, I'm here. That was a great way to end our discussion for today. Every reading is very different, and I just have to say I love the way this conversation flowed and just the ways in which everybody's work spoke to each other. So I just want to say thank you, Dana, Caitlin, Li Yun, Douglas, and Dennis, on behalf of Ricochet and Goldline Press, for a fantastic reading and discussion. This marks the second reading of our 2x2 reading series, and we honestly couldn't be happier with the works and discussions shared today. All these incredible insights about ghosts and the different ways that we inhabit history, our personal history, our familial history, the history of the US all the way to Antarctica. Really, thank you so much. We have this tradition where we like to take group photo after our events. So can we please take a screenshot of everyone for our memories? I believe, Sarah, you're the one taking the screenshot here. All right. I'm just assume it's been done.
Okay. I was like, do I let this all go, or?
Yeah, Sarah's nodding, so this means yes.
You're good, yeah. It takes a minute for it to actually load.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. We hope you continue to support our readers' work beyond this event by purchasing their books and following them on social media to stay up to date on their next events. And you can please see the links in our chat box for more information. I'm just going to add a couple more here. You can also follow Goldline Press and Ricochet Editions as well on social media to stay up to date on our next events and programming. And while Ricochet Editions reading period has recently concluded, you can please follow the press on social media to see what editors are reading these days and other fun news. If you sent in work during the call for submissions, Ricochet Editions is so thankful for your manuscript and look forward to reading you. In the meantime, the reading period for Goldline Press's 2020 chapbook contest in fiction, nonfiction, and poetry is currently open. So if you have a manuscript to share, please send it our way by the deadline August 15th. And you can check the submission link in the chat box if you're interested. Goldline Press and Ricochet's 2x2 reading series brings together authors from both our astounding catalogs and conversations with writers that we admire from our surrounding literary community. So we want to thank you again to Dana, Douglas, Caitlin, Dennis, and Li Yun for making our second reading so exceptional.
And thank you all too. I just said, I thought I was sending it to everyone. Thank you all for this great reading, and it went only to Marcus.
Happens to me all the time. But thank you especially to Marcus. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us today. Please stay tuned for the video of this event on YouTube and share with those who couldn't make it today. And we hope you join us again for our next reading in August. So thank you and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. And Dennis, I've gone to Bogart's to see concerts all the time in the Nasty Natty. We used to make that drive in high school.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's where Battle of the Bands was. We were always there.
Yeah, no, I wonder if we've seen any. I used to see bands like Guster. I think I'm aging myself. You'll know how old I am that I like Guster. Yeah, so I'm pretty old. But yeah, that was what the scene was when I was in high school there. We would drive all the way over there.
That's awesome.
All right, much respect. It was a pleasure sharing space with all y'all. Dana, Dane, so good to see you. Tisha, Meryl, Jocelyn, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
seriously, much respect meeting you. Seriously, I adore your work. Yes, I agree. I enjoy your work so much. Everybody, yeah. LBC, say what? We in here. All right. Seriously, Dennis, nice to meet you as well. Caitlin, so much respect, dude. I'm glad to share space with you today. Seriously. All right. Thank you, Long Beach Literary Arts, too. LBC. Thank y'all. Bye.
Bye, y'all.